What up, children's? Old man back shouting at clouds. Today, the topic of conversation is rights, but specifically the First Amendment right to the First Amendment to the Constitution. Why are we talking about that one today? Well, if you've been spending any time on social, you've probably seen a lot of people talking about it. What's a violation of that right? What isn't a violation of that right? Which talk show host said something that got them in trouble? Should they have been removed from the air? A lot of the dialogue I'm seeing on it as an adult, people clearly don't understand what the First Amendment is and what it protects us from and what it doesn't protect us from. So if adults don't get it, I have a feeling you might not either. So that's why we're going to talk about it. Today, we're going to kind of focus the conversation on the First Amendment specifically, but you could really apply this pretty broadly to the Constitution in general at this point. And the reason why I feel like we need to discuss it and start breaking this stuff down is because bad actors are really using kind of a lack of understanding in America right now to manipulate people and get them to support things they really shouldn't be supporting. So we're going to have that conversation. This is a super important one. Buckle up. We're going to talk about it. I'm not going to get super nitty-gritty. I'm not a constitutional scholar. So what I hope to accomplish with this is give you a pretty high-level but accurate understanding of what the First Amendment is and what it protects you from and what it doesn't protect you from. What this is not is a lawyer-level understanding of it. I am sure that somebody could hop into the comments here and correct me on a few things, but the big picture is what I want to leave you with. So, without further preamble, we're going to jump into this. Another reason I think this is beneficial to cover is because a couple of you who shall remain nameless, maybe just one of you, have at various points suggested that Mom and I were infringing on your rights, and we're going to touch on that too. So, here we go. So, possibly over the past few weeks, you may have seen somebody or heard somebody, maybe friends at school or when you're hanging out, get really mad about something that they saw happen or that happened to them and claim that their rights were being violated, particularly as it relates to the First Amendment, which protects freedom of speech. So we're going to break down what the First Amendment actually says, or we're going to paraphrase it. I'm not going to quote it. But what does it actually protect you from, and then what doesn't it protect you from? So the core idea here, the First Amendment is a rule in the Constitution that says the government, I'm going to emphasize that, government can't punish you just for expressing your beliefs on something. That's it. That's what it protects you from. Governmental consequences for speaking your mind. Okay? So, why is that an important thing? Well, the Founding Fathers understood that there are places where that is not protected. Okay? There are still places today where if you say the wrong thing, you could experience consequences from the government for saying it, okay? Up to and including you could be physically harmed or you could be thrown in some prison somewhere. So rightly, the Founding Fathers saw that as a massive issue, and they wished to enshrine your right to say those things in the Constitution. I don't think it was an accident that it was the First Amendment. I believe the Founding Fathers felt this was absolutely critical for having a free society and a Republican style of governance. Okay? You can't have good ideas coming to the surface if people are afraid to speak their mind. So that is why it is in the Constitution. That's why it's a protected right. And so let's go through some things that it would protect you from. So, for example, if I felt that the current administration was doing a bad job of running the country, I am allowed to say that without fearing that the police are going to come knock on my door, or that, I don't know, maybe ICE is going to come to my house, ask me to see my citizenship papers, and if I can't instantly present them, they're going to throw me in a panel van and take me to Alligator Alcatraz. Those are things that would be a violation of my freedom of speech, as laid out in the Constitution. Very cut and dry. Okay? But what doesn't it protect me from? Maybe that's equally as helpful to explore, right? So what it doesn't protect me from is if I say something, I don't know, or if you, for example, say something mean to your teacher and they give you a detention or have you write lines on the chalkboard that doesn't exist anymore, or they take away your recess, they send an email to mom and dad. Those are not violations of your First Amendment rights, okay? That's not the police coming and throwing you in jail or caning you. It's your teacher establishing some rules for the classroom and then holding you accountable for following them. That is not a violation of your rights, okay? What's another example of something that is not a violation of your constitutional right? Well, if you say something rude to mom and dad and we ground you, that is not a violation of your rights. Sorry, it isn't. I am not the government. I can establish norms within the household and expect you to follow them. And if you choose not to, you can accept the consequences for that. What's another example? Okay, let's say you go onto social media and you post some crazy rant. The social media platform can take you off. They can restrict your access to that platform. That's not a violation of your right. You are using their platform. They have a right to decide who's able to use it and who isn't. You might not like it. You might think it's unfair. It's their platform. So they can let you in. They can not let you in. That's their right. It's not a violation of yours. Okay? An example as you become older. So if I am at work and my boss asks me to do something, I think it's an unreasonable request. I don't think it makes sense. I don't think it would be beneficial for the company. I am not allowed, if I call my boss an idiot for that and my boss decides to fire me, that's not a violation of my rights. Again, it is not the government that is coming down on me. It's my boss. I work for a private company. They can establish rules and norms. If I don't like those rules and norms, I don't have to choose to work for that company. That's not a violation of my First Amendment right. Okay. So, does that mean you can always say whatever you want, no matter what, without fear that the government specifically will step in? No. There are exceptions to the protections of the First Amendment. Probably the most famous one that you may have even heard at this time would be shouting fire in a crowded theater when there is no fire. So why is that different? How come I can't do that? Well, if you think about it, what's the likely outcome of screaming fire in a crowded theater? Well, the most likely thing that's going to happen is, most likely people are going to look around them to confirm for themselves whether or not they see a fire. But it's not unreasonable to suspect that they will also panic and race to the exit. Okay? In the pandemonium that ensues, people could be injured. People could even be killed. Okay? That is not protected free speech. If you do that and someone is harmed or killed, you will be held accountable. That is not a violation of your free speech as protected by the Constitution. Another example that is not protected. Let's say, some kid in the neighborhood makes you angry, right? Maybe they, I don't know what a good example is. Maybe they borrowed your scooter and broke it, and you got really angry. Or they, they're over at our house, using the Xbox and they break your controller and you're really upset about this. And you say, I'm going to kill you. Nope, not protected free speech. You can't threaten people. That is not acceptable. It's not protected speech. You can face consequences from that, okay? Now, you're a kid. The expectations on you are a little bit different, but me as an adult, if a similar situation happens, let's say, somebody in the neighborhood gets mad at me and I leave my car parked outside and they decide to scratch it with their keys to get back at me. And let's say I caught it on the Ring doorbell. I know who did it. I go to their house, pound on their door, and I'm like, you keyed up my car? I'm going to burn your house to the ground. Saying that, whether I mean it or intend to follow through on it or not, that is not protected free speech, okay? Threats in general, not protected free speech, okay? What's another thing that would not be protected free speech? Well, let's say that, let's say I lost my job and mom and I were hurting for money. I can't go to the neighbor's house, knock on the door and say, hey, man, I'm really hurting for money. Let's go rob a bank. Nope. Can't encourage immediate law breaking. That's not protected free speech. Okay. Another thing that is not protected free speech. Let's say now I own a business and I'm trying to sell some new medication. And I tell people this medication is going to solve all these problems for you. Do you experience headaches? Okay, this medication will get rid of them. Okay, we know somebody who experiences regular migraines. Let's say I tell her, hey, this is going to take away your migraines. It's going to solve that problem for you. But it turns out that medicine's actually really dangerous. Okay. That is also not protected free speech. I'm not allowed to just say that, and then it causes other problems for other people, okay? There are some other examples of things that don't constitute freedom of speech and expression, stuff that's obscene. We're not going to cover that specifically on this video. Suffice it to say, I would hope that the other examples I've provided have given you a good enough idea of the difference between what's protected free speech and what isn't, that you would be able to lump those examples in as well. But if you have some questions, I'm not going to cover that on YouTube. You can ask me in person. So why does all of this matter, right? Why am I even telling you about this? Well, it's, some would say, critical to the existence of democracy or a republic form of government. Okay? Can you really have freedom for people in a government if they're not allowed to express their beliefs, if they're not allowed to speak their mind? The Founding Fathers would argue you cannot. That's why it was the First Amendment to the Constitution. Okay? If the government can throw people in jail just for saying it's doing a bad job, then how would we ever know the truth of anything, right? How are we ever going to hold our governmental officials accountable? Well, we wouldn't be able to, right? If you can't speak your mind, you can't hold anyone accountable. And they could just do whatever they wanted. So the First Amendment prevents that, okay? It should be an incredibly high hurdle to authoritarian styles of government. That's what the Founding Fathers wanted. Now, to take this from the world of governance, which at your ages might be a bit abstract, let's take this to something that you can relate to. Let's say we're playing a board game or a sport, but only one person was allowed to say what the rules were and nobody else was allowed to weigh in. Does that sound like a game that you would want to play or a sport that you'd want to participate in? Probably not, right? If you weren't even allowed to speak your mind about whether or not the rules were fair, I doubt you would choose to play. So the Founding Fathers felt that that's also true for the government, right? Everyone should be allowed to weigh in on what the rules are and what the expectations should be. So, at any rate, at the end of the day, what I want you to take away from this is that probably a lot of the dialogue you guys are hearing, a lot of the dialogue you might be seeing online, clearly shows that we don't fundamentally understand what the First Amendment actually protects and what it doesn't protect. And it's incredibly important that we do understand that. Because if we don't understand it, people will use that lack of understanding to manipulate us, and we will end up making some decisions or allowing some decisions to be made that could be incredibly harmful to this country and the freedoms that we enjoy. So, I hope this one has helped. If you have questions, please ask. Let me know. I'll be happy to discuss it with you. But really take some time to understand this one because it's absolutely critical. I love you very much. Stay free and stay safe.